and welcome everyone to Japan Expert Insights. In the studio, as always, Maya Matsuoka from
Hey.
Tokyo. How's it going?
Oh, it's fine. We've got a beautiful, cold, very cold morning here in Tokyo, but everybody's kind of optimistic about this new year. I have no idea why. I
Yeah,
believe
neither do
it's
I'm already start drinking here in a minute. Actually, I've already got it lined up. This should be brought to you by Suntory, because I've got my Suntory lined up here. Maybe we'll ask the viewers if they log in what I should be drinking. I'll probably start with the Yamazaki. But anyway, because you know what, kind of need it. Dry January after day 2 is like, forget it. This is not going to happen. So, but anyway, thank you everybody for joining us. Some kind of fun stuff here to start it off with a little bit. When I was in Japan, and I'm going to thank everybody personally here in a few minutes because it's a little bit of a story on that. But I got to meet Roland Keltz, who is kind of like the guy behind the guy behind the guy. I mean, he's just fantastic person. And I got to thank Moeka because she was the one who got me to meet him. And he was talking to one of the guys in the police. I can't remember. Is it Stewart? One of the guitarist of the bass player. He was doing a conference and we were going to go. We couldn't make it. But he gave me this book called Monkey. And I don't know if I've talked about this yet in the podcast, but if you can get your hands on it, it's a new writing from Japan. This is volume 6 from 2025. Usually these are in Japanese. They do an English version every year. This is such a fantastic read. There's just so many good short stories in this. I know there's some Haruki Murakami, there's some Kuroi Fujino, just Yoko Ogawa. There's a lot of good people who write in this. So if you're in Japan, or if you just want to go on eBay, find yourself a copy of this and you won't regret it. One of the interesting things about our, this mission to bring Japan and America closer together. I don't know if you know this. Have you seen this, Maya? There's the school bus coffee shops. Have you seen these?
I've heard the
This is the keychain. It's yes, that is an American school bus, right?
I can see that. Yes.
Yeah, it is so. You know what? If I brought this to Kyoto, I can get like 10% off my coffee.
How about that?
I'm not there yet. I'm here in Chicago. So I was trying to figure out like what the deal was because I thought it was so intriguing. And as it turns out, yes, they do have the coffee shops, but as there is when I was in Osaka, I went to the sort of the original school bus coffee shop, and they gave me this. I asked them, and they said, sure. They're actually an interior design company that specializes in merging Western and design.
Sweet, yes.
And the school bus is just kind of like their shtick, and it's so fascinating. So if you happen to be in Japan, Kyoto, I don't know if they got one in Tokyo. I know they got them in Kyoto and Osaka and in the Kansai region, but they should. You can give them an I'm donut, and then they can send you a school bus coffee shop, and then I think we'll be set.
That's sweet.
Any resolutions for the new year? I'm breaking into the Yamazaki, by the way. Podcast not brought to you by Yamazaki, but you know what?
Brought to you by
one day. I know some people in Suntory. If you're watching, hey, if you're up for it, got to get the kids drinking again. Apparently, the kids don't drink anymore because they're all so uptight, and I get it, but sometimes you just need a drink. I don't know. We're just from that generation, like watching the news, and I just need to hit one of these.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is that, as you said, kids don't drink anymore, which is not a bad thing per se, right?
Not a bad thing, but you know what? One ain't gonna kill you, and you know what? It's you're missing out. I mean, here's the thing. I think it's weird because I came from Gen X, where a lot of the kids would just drink, and then drink crap, and then they get blessed. And I was never that kid. I get migraines, and I have like one drink, I'm okay. 2, I pass out or I have a headache. So I've never been much of a serious drinker.
Right.
I mean, there were times where like, maybe a little much, but nothing crazy. And I think like, as you get older, your taste buds and stuff, you want something good. So like, one thing I like about Suntory is that they always put out really, really good stuff. So, you're not drinking swill. Like it's actually someone put some love and some craft into this. There's some really great documentaries as we kind of break into this. Oh yes, Susan.
Yes,
McCormick just said Roland interviewed Andy Summers, the guitarist for the Police, and the entire Monkey series is amazing. This is going to be more of an interactive show this time. So thank you, Susan, one of our guests. we should get her back because she has her own podcast, which is really great too. So, but
Yeah.
thank you. We really do rely on our people to make us sound to make me sound way smarter than I am. Maya, you're good, but I need all the help I can get. What were we talking about? Drinking.
I just before we move into the documentaries about probably whiskey making and so on, I wanted to say that back home in Bulgaria we've got in the past, of course, when there were so many people smoking there, and there were a lot of campaigns, against smoking. And of course, when I was in high school, we would play truant from time to time, and then we would become social smokers. That wasn't a good thing, but anyway. And of course, there was that kind of black joke, that on some of the cigarette boxes sold there, it was written, "Non-smokers die in good health." Oh, and then Michael disappeared. Okay, so I know this is a black joke, and I do not encourage anybody to reach out and smoke nowadays, or to find solace in drinking alcohol, because these are not good things, of course. But at the same time, as Michael said, if you are a moderate let me see, a moderate adventurer, you might actually find something new, a new taste there, a new experience there and here. So, Michael, welcome back.
Thank you. You know what? It is pouring rain right now, so I think one of
Right.
us got booted out of the
Yes.
internet for a second. DIY filmmaking, it happens. So anyway, thank you for continuing that, and picking up the slack as always. No, I was going to say was Keanu Reeves did this thing. You can watch it on YouTube, where he talks. He goes to the Suntory whiskey place. He's like, wow, like I had a bottle of Hibiki 21 and I liked it. And he just talks. And then, I think it was Roman Coppola. Probably couldn't get Sophia to do the camera this time, but he just basically talks about the different, the different area people in the Suntory distillery. But the truth is that it is really fascinating, because there is such a loving craftsmanship to, just basically anything Japan does, but in particular, this case, the whiskey, just even like the way the bottles are made. I believe the ink comes from like charcoal and trees that are in the area. It's a very sort of self-sustaining and environmentally friendly way to do business. So, good for them. I think it's really fascinating. So,
Indeed.
But anyway, so today we're going to have some fun. We're going to kind of spitball a little bit. We don't have a guest, so we thought, well, we're just going to like talk about some of the things that we've seen, the Japanese films and TV shows that we like, and tell you about them so you can check them out and just kind of spitball a little bit, and just, and then also too, we always ask that to send us comments and questions, but in this particular episode, feel free to just pepper us. Like, if you got anything you want to ask us, this is your time. We don't have anybody we have to talk to, so feel free to ask away, ask questions, go nuts.
Yeah.
So, all right.
And also share your favorite shows, TV shows and films, Japanese films, of course, in the comments.
Right.
We will be very, very happy to hear about them as well. Yes, because everybody appreciates different things, right? We come from different backgrounds, we come from different experiences, and so different films and shows resonate in different ways with each one of us. So that's I find it always fascinating, to learn what other people like, or what other people dislike, for that matter, because we cannot like everything, right? So
Right.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but I wanted to. We were moving into, yes, the documentaries realm, but I wanted to start with something which is a little bit older, and I think that this series, basically, it was first a movie, I believe, created in 2001, and it is an old one. It sounds like, wow, 25 years ago. It's, you can think that many of the concepts in the movie are already behind the time and everything, but fortunately that's not the case. And I'm talking about the comedy Water Boys. So
Yeah.
yes, yeah. And I remember that movie because I really loved it when that was basically, it was released when I came to Japan in 2001. And it was one of the very first Japanese contemporary movies that I watched. And then later it was developed also into TV series. And it ran a couple of years after that. So I loved it because it actually went against the stereotype I had about Japan and the Japanese society. And I say this because before I came to Japan, I didn't know much about the country. I mean, back then, Japan was not a travel destination, and because of that, I believe there wasn't much information about the traditions and the modern society here. Out of Japan is what I mean, and especially in my nook of the woods. And so I imagine that when I came to Japan, I would see, like those very conservative and very traditional men walking the streets and some samurai and everything. That wasn't the case, of course. And I thought also that women were not allowed to do much out of home, which was not the case either. And when I watched that movie, it was really fascinating because it actually was a movie about breaking stereotypes. It's about boys, high school boys, that form a team of synchronized swimming, right? And back then, of course, culturally in Japan, that's something that sport was considered a sport for women. But it is a movie actually where a boy he signs up for the swimming team of the school, but then everybody else leaves, and a new coach comes, and she forms a team. And then that boy, he actually signs up for the team only to realize that the new coach is not teaching swimming, but synchronized swimming. So, and it starts from there. You go through all the heartwarming moments and all the jokes, and sometimes absurdities, and all those stereotypes that synchronized swimming is only for women and so on. And all those boys, who eventually form a team. And, the movie follows their development and the evolution. I think it's just a wonderful, wonderful story. And that happened 25 years ago when many people still thought that the Japanese society was so conservative. I was one of them, of course. And it turned out that that wasn't the case. And also, I found it very interesting that we all perceive Japan as a very group oriented society. And it's true, of course. But in that movie, we could see how individualism was rewarded as well and how important it was for everybody here. So something that we're not used to thinking, or we are not used to, how can I say, accepting about Japan. So that's why I love this movie. It's a comedy, of course, it's lighthearted. That's one of the things that I appreciate, but also, the story behind, or basically how the values of this society, are conveyed through that story is, I would say the movie is also very educational to foreigners like me.
Right. Well, that's the thing about like we talk about like favorite movies, right? Or favorite TV shows or things that like
Yeah.
open you up. It's because a lot of times there's a personal connection to it. Because there's always like when people say like what are the greatest movies of all time and what are your favorite movies of all time? They're not the same list. Because when you talk about greatest movies of all time, there's prestige pictures. I mean, if you're talking about like, let's say Japanese, cinema, I mean, you're talking about early Kurosawa and Ozu, obviously Seven Samurai. I'm a big fan of Drunken Angel by Kurosawa, which was done as a post World War II kind of a film where you really get to see Tokyo just in bad.
Right. Yeah.
But of course Ozu. I mean, my God, Tokyo Story is just such a fantastic film, and those are great prestige pictures. But you don't pop them in all the time. It's not like what I feel like watching Drunken Angel. I mean, I should say that Drunken Angel I will pop in. Seven Samurai I got to be ready for because it's a long movie. It's a great movie, but those aren't necessarily your go-tos. That when it's like a Saturday afternoon. And I also too, I think maybe we were part of a generation. I know growing up here in Chicago. we had a station called WGN, Channel 9 in Chicago. And on Saturday afternoons, they would have like their Saturday afternoon at the movies, before internet, before all these things. I was a little kid at the time. But it was kind of fun because sometimes you serendipitously got exposure to things that you wouldn't normally get exposure to. But also, too, because the expectations weren't sky high, I kind of feel like there is something missing or something that wrong. I don't know if that's the right word, but I think people expect every show or every movie to be a life-changing experience.
Right.
That's impossible. That's never going to happen. It'd be nice, but it's just not going to happen. And there was this sort of expectation you'd be watching movies on like 4 o'clock WGN, and it's just going to be a good watch. It wasn't going to change your life, but there were going to be elements to the film that were going to be fascinating. There were going to be things about the movie that were well done, and you could just enjoy it for what it is. There wasn't this hyper expectation machine where, like, now, especially in America, I think every trailer has got that douche, 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 douche. Like, it's a romantic comedy. You don't need to be hitting me over the head with the drums and the beating. Just calm down, okay? Like, I missed the art of the trailer. I grew up, I was really coming up in the 90s when there was a certain craftsmanship to getting you to want to see a movie in the theater and not just beating you over the head with drums. Waxing nostalgia. But the point being is that when we talk about these films, and one thing to keep in mind for all of our viewers is, Japan's a different country and there's going to be different expectations. So don't sit there and say, well, because one of the problems is Japan doesn't have the same production set as America does. Like, every American show looks really slick. Every American show looks like they threw like a bunch of money at it. Japan a lot of times doesn't have that. But that doesn't mean that there isn't quality television that you can enjoy. You just have to adjust your sensibilities a little bit. And sometimes I get it. It's hard. I tried to get into Bollywood for a bit, and there's some Bollywood movies. I mean, RRR is fantastic, and there's some great films. But I would get thrown because I'd be watching. There was one that they pitched as like, this is India's Jason Bourne. I'm like, okay, this is cool. In the first 15 minutes, it's all tense, it's all exciting, and then they break off into song. And I was like, oh, we're doing this now. And it just threw me. I know it's the culture. I get it. But I mean, RRR kind of has a little bit of camp to it. So I was expecting that, but like, it does throw you a little bit. So just remember when we're talking about these shows and movies, just, adjust your expectations a little bit, because they're not going to have that slickness that not all of them will, that an American production has. Now, of course, the first thing I'm going to mention is Rental Family. And so that is finally getting released on digital here on the 13th. They just announced it today. So did you see that, by the way? Did you get a chance, or has it not shown up in Japan yet?
Not yet. I haven't watched it yet. Okay. So, yeah, and I'm looking forward to a chance to see it.
Okay.
And yeah.
It's good. I mean, okay, it's really good. I mean, first of all, you have the music score by the guys from Sigurus. And it's just haunting and brilliant and emotional. I remember I saw that in a theater in November when it first came out. I had just come back from Japan. And if I can give anybody, if you're listening, a reason why you go to the movie theaters, and even if it's like a small little indie film like this, is because I had just come back from Japan. And you go to a movie theater and I sit there and I see Tokyo on the big screen, and I was in tears, because I was like, oh, I was just there. Like, there's something about seeing something on a big screen that really emotionally puts you there, as opposed to just seeing it on your television set. No matter how great or big your TV screen is, you go to a theater, you see something on something that big, the big stereos, it's always going to be a bigger presentation. And I was back in Japan, and it was just such an emotional experience for me right from the get-go. That being said, Rental Family is a brilliant and haunting film. It did pretty good at the box office for a movie of that type. I wish it did even better, because it deserved to. Wouldn't it be fantastic if we lived in a world where a film like that brings in 100 million? It should. So I'm telling everybody right now, if you're in the States, it's $24.99. Pre-order it. It'll be worth it. You're going to spend you spend more than $25 going to the movies. This is a movie you can watch with your whole family. You really can't. Oh, well, scratch that. There is some things that maybe for little kids wouldn't be super appropriate, but tweens on up, I think, is fine. think it's PG-13 anyway, so that's okay. You can watch that. It appeals to a lot of different ages, and it stars well, it's got obviously Brendan Fraser. And Brendan Fraser's kind of like in his Bill Murray in Lost in Translation phase of his career, where he's basically the lovable, laughable, but sad. He's kind of in a sad phase, where Bill Murray was at in 2003. And Marie Yamamoto, of course, does a lot of heavy lifting. She was the one reason why Monarch. I mean, Anna Sawai was really good in that too, but that was a show that I always felt like you had a hard time trying to. It did a lot of things right, but I never felt it came together. But Marie Yamamoto is the heart of that show. So it's worth watching Monarch for her and for Anna Sawai when she's not doing things in Shogun. But also who's in that, actually, I should say, is Takahiro Hira, who was in Crosspoint, our friend of the show, Donnie Aurealis, his movie. He played in that movie. He shows up as the guy who's running the rental family here, the rental family company. It's just such a very well done film. And I think when you look at the content of it, under like a lesser director, because I think it's Hikari who does she directs it. And she had done a film called 37 Seconds, which is also on a Netflix here in the States, which is a good film too. She also did some episodes of Beef and a couple other things. Because there's without giving too much away, there's a whole sequence where Brendan Fraser basically is playing the role of a father for this character. And obviously things are going to get dicey. I mean, that's going to happen. But it's the type of role where that could go wrong real fast. If the actor is just too creepy, like Leonardo DiCaprio can't play that role, right? If there's something like it has to be so platonic and so fatherly, and there has to be that tinge of pathos that Brendan Fraser just does in spades. And of course Shannon Gorman, she's one of those like little talents who just, you can see like she'll have a career if she wants it, who just carries every scene she's in. And of course Akira Imoto, the old actor. There's just not a bad scene or a bad role or a bad moment in the film, and you can't say that too often about movies. It's a wonderful watch. So if you're here in the States, make sure you grab a copy of Rental Family. It's extraordinary.
Yeah, I will watch it once, I get that chance, because I think that people here are also very excited about the movie. And it's one of those things that give us a different perspective, and I believe it helps us appreciate what we have at the moment, right?
Right. Well, yeah,
Yeah.
because that movie could be handled. It doesn't like. I think like the American perspective was, I think you're expecting people to kind of like at some point shame the idea of a rental family, and it doesn't do that. It's accepting of it. And so it has to walk these very sort of fine lines when it comes to like cultural acceptance. Just there's several things happening here in the film in a subtle way. And gosh, like, Hikari, like, direct my movie, please. I got a script for you. I don't care. Like, she's so great. Like, I've seen her in interviews and stuff like that. She's a fantastic director. We get her on the show too. But you can tell, like, under a lesser director, that movie crashes and burns. And it's a lot more complicated and nuanced than maybe what, I think some films are like that. You just think it's kind of this breezy kind of film, and you realize, no, there's just so much happening here. There's so much undercurrent that under a lesser director, this film collapses in on itself, and it doesn't. It really sustains. I think if there was only thing I was kind of maybe wondering if like Brendan Fraser, without being too spoilery, if there was going to be some love interest with him and one of the characters, I kind of thought, well, maybe that'd be kind of fun. But I don't know. I think that might change the dynamics of the movie entirely. So just, leave it alone. But otherwise, yeah, fantastic film.
Yeah, I think because you mentioned once again, cultural acceptance. So I wanted to mention another thing, another, let's say, TV drama series here in Japan, which is running right now.
Yeah.
And so you can watch it, of course, on NHK, because this is the morning drama on NHK. And so it is a drama for, I think it's 125 episodes series, that run from Monday till Friday, every day, every week, basically. And it is about the wife of, what was his name? A Greek, it's called the Ghostwriter's Wife. in English. But
Oh,
in Japanese, it is called bake bake,
hmm,
which is a very cute title. And because bake means a ghost, right? And bake
right.
bake. But then it's about basically well, a Greek Irish writer who came to Japan during the Meiji era, and then of course he was teaching English at school at that time, but his main purpose was to collect stories about ghost stories here in Japan,
Hmm,
folklore stories and everything. And so it's interesting that the drama, what I appreciate about it is, of course, it's very easy to watch because it's just 15 minutes
hmm,
every day, right?
right.
And but the good thing is that it is loosely based on the life of the wife of that Greek Irish writer who came to Japan. And it talks about all the social changes during the Meiji period here. And at that time, Japan really went, the society and the country as a whole, they went through very, very hard, how can I put it, hard challenges for them because the social system changed. All the samurai that were here, they suddenly had to find a different way of living because they were not allowed to carry the sword anymore, which also meant that they had to switch, from one source of living to another. Their families suffered, and it was really, really a very hard time of or transition. But this is a very sweet drama because once again, it shows how people basically coming from two very different cultures and who know very little about the other's culture in the beginning, gradually, through personal experience, through surprising moments, through some disappointments and everything, eventually they get to accept and really appreciate the other person's cultural background. And it is an undercurrent. There are quite a few undercurrents there as well in the drama. So if you are in Japan and you haven't watched any of those episodes, I would say maybe give it a try. It's really a sweet, very easy to watch drama, but you can learn quite a few things because obviously Lefcadio Hearn is the name of the real person, right? So he is a real character who came to Japan, and then well, the name of the character in the drama is Lefkada Heaven,
Hmm.
and yeah, there are quite a few funny moments there. This also reminded me of a movie that I watched only recently, and that movie is The Rules of Living,
Yes, I was going to bring that up. So
right?
you're the first one. Yeah, I did. I've watched that twice since last time we've talked.
Yes,
Yeah, Greg
because there
Dale,
was
man.
also yes, and then in that movie we also saw a few scenes with Lefcadio Hearn, right?
Hmm,
So there is also that connection for me. But I also loved that one. I mean, the Rules of Living because it's. I mean, it catches so many moments and so many. How can I say unspoken sensitivities here in Japan,
right.
expectations in society, and also how people communicate, what they say, what they don't say, but still mean. That movie was really wonderful. And I believe that you can see it also in the United States now,
You
right?
can. So if you go to like rulesofliving.com, I think you
Hmm.
can like rent it or download it for a few bucks. Now, one of the things I'll say about this film is that I mean, I really enjoyed it. But I think when we're talking earlier, like I wish Greg had like another like $500,000 to throw at the film because it's such a good movie. And it's like, but it's his first film, and you can tell like making movies is hard. I can't even make a movie. I'm trying to make a movie. It's like that's how hard it is, right? Like, and so
Right.
it's hard to make a movie. And so Greg, kudos to him for making a really nice film. And I always tell people, so if you end up watching in the States, like, it's you can't compare it to something like Christopher Nolan does. I mean, come on, he's got like 100 times the budget, but there's so many things he does well in that. And for starters, I mean, let's just talk about like Kaho Minami. which
Yes.
Kaho was married to what's his name? He was
Ken
in
Watanabe.
and what time? Yes, yeah. For those who don't know, he was in Inception, The Last Samurai. He's kind of that guy in American cinema. If you're looking for a Japanese a person to be in your film,
Mm.
but Kaho, her line delivery is exquisite. Now, I mean, she's been in the industry forever, but there were some lines where she says, I think she says like, "What a boring place," like it's hysterical. It's a nothing line, and the way she says it is so funny.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I've seen somebody line read that well. I mean, she completely sells her character as somebody, and I just thought, yeah, she's. It's kind of like, where's she been? I know we've seen Ken, but where's Kaho been? We need to see her in more things. Like she's like, I'm sure she has. She's done a bunch of stuff, but here in the States, like we just haven't seen as much. And it's like, wow, like she just delivered. And Greg, I loved Greg's performance because what he reminded me of a little bit was like 90s Steve Buscemi. And I say that in the most complimentary way because I've always loved Steve Buscemi when he would do stuff with Jim Jarmusch in the 90s. In the 80s, 90s, I think he did, what did he do with Jim Jarmusch? He did a lot of indie stuff. I think the one he did was not Night on Earth. I think he does the one in Memphis. But it's this really, really just nuanced performance where like he just kind of like I said, he reminds me of like when Steve Buscemi, because he can play that sort of offbeat but sad, but also at the same time, he's curious about Japan. Like he and he's very likable.
Right.
Like Brendan Fraser does have a real deep pathos when he's doing Rules of when Rental Family with Brendan Fraser. And then with Rules of Living, it's he's a little bit more twitchy. He's a little bit more. He's got more of an edge to him. But yeah, he reminded me of like when Steve Buscemi would do like Jim Jarmusch films, or I think there was one called Smoke. When he was really he was playing that sort of likable but offbeat character. But like I said, when I watched, I think, man, I can tell, I know what Greg would be watching. Man, if I had like another $500,000, like I could have like done this.
Yes.
I could already hear in my head like Greg like and so when everyone watches it, just remember you're watching a first-time director like doing his dream project, and there are just moments. Appreciate a lot of the moments in the film, because there's a lot to like there. And I think this is a case where I see it and I'm like, this reminds me of like something I might have seen on like Image Union on WTTW Chicago back in the day. Something it's a little bit more like, definitely more down and dirty filmmaking. But that being said, I can't wait to see a second one. And the same thing with Dining Aurealis when I saw Crosspoint. I liked it a lot, and I thought it does some things very, very well. And some of the side and the performances, because Kay and Stephanie, who were on our show, were in that film. Right. They were so good in it. And so but you want to see more. Like I get so excited, not just seeing these films, but knowing what the second film or the third film is going to be. Jeffrey Rowe and the people we've had on our show, a lot of these guys are running out these movies. They're so good. There's just so many great moments to it, and I just like, man, like I said, but yeah, someone, if you're listening and you got like a few $1 million, like, send it their way. They'll make you something good. Like give it to them. They'll make you a Netflix show, whatever. Like, cause that's the thing. There's so much raw talent, and then we're so lucky to have these people on our show.
Absolutely.
And they get to talk about their stuff. Yeah. So that's wonderful. So I have to talk about, so we're going to have some fun. So let's talk about this. So to give you the backstory, one of my good friends, Sonoda-san over at Ajinomoto, when I used to work with him back in the day, he said, Michael, you got to watch First Love. It's my wife and I, we love the show First Love. You got to watch it. It's on Netflix. And I'm like, okay, I'll check it out. Now, here's the thing. So I had already seen Glassheart, and we have to talk about Takeru Sato. Because I kind of get the impression, is he like the Matthew McConaughey of Japan? Because like he's always in these romantic kind of shows. And there's always a shot of him, slow motion, umbrella, while it's raining. Like I think literally in the 3 that I'd seen, I've seen 3 shows, recent shows of his. But they're all good. They're all really, really good. So the first thing I'll say is that if you're, sometimes you watch shows like Quartet, which I really liked. And we're going to talk about Quartet with Kaneko, our friend Kaneko Hori-san, because we're going to start deep diving into some J dramas with her here in 2026. But you can tell like there's just a lesser budget to it. And so I think sometimes for American audiences, it's harder for them to get into the drama if the show feels less like it's just more like a video, more soapy would be the word, like a soap opera here. And it's a shame because there's some great things happening. Just, you know, my guys, it's Japan, it's a different thing. But I don't know where Sato gets his money, but they throw a lot of money in his shows because they look really good. There are some moments where you're like, yeah, that looks a little bit CGI or a little like cheapy or whatever, but for the most part, they look sharp. So I kind of watched this trilogy of shows of his. One was called First Love, which came out here in 2023. And then I saw this other one that you can see on Amazon Prime here called Marry My Husband. And then I wrapped it with Glass Heart. So First Love to Sonoda-san. Yeah, here's the thing. It's also got an actress, you probably know her, Hikari. I'm going to mispronounce her last name. I'm so sorry. Hikari Mitsushima. If you know,
Okay,
know
Mitsushima, yes.
Yeah, Hikari Mitsushima. She's everything I've seen her in, she's fantastic. They're both just performers at the top of their game. And I think this is one of those things where they were kind of waiting to put these two together. You know, kind of like maybe back in the day when you'd have like Matthew McConaughey and Kate Hudson and you'd throw them in a movie together or something like that. Maybe now you would do like, what's her name? Sweeney and Glenn Powell or something like that. You put those guys into a movie together. I'm a sucker for these romantic shows. I don't know why. I just am. There's just something about them. It does play a little bit on the old tropes. She gets amnesia. She doesn't remember him. But it kind of feels like they did things better than what Lost did because the show is told also in flashbacks. So I don't know if you've ever seen this, but basically the couple, they get together, they break up, and then something happens to her and she barely remembers him or the relationship, but they meet years later. And so I'm not giving too much away because that's the premise of the story. And so they're kind of tiptoeing around like, how much should I talk to her? Da, 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 da. It's a case where this show should be cliche and silly, but the level of performance is so good that you're like, okay, I'm in. Let's see where this goes. You know, let's see what happens. And so to Sonoda-san, thank you for the recommendation because there were some moments where it really did hit me hard. I was really surprised because he has a sister who's deaf. And I have a dog who's deaf. So when they're at the wedding, they do this, which is how you say thank you. You know, you shake your hand. Like, I'm in hand and heart mode, you know, like, oh my God, this is so touching. And also too, as slowly as the characters realize who she is and she doesn't remember them, but they remember her. It's like, I love films where like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind or movies where somebody knows something the other one doesn't. Maybe it's because I think in the end in life, the ultimate tragedy is that we take this and it disappears. Like, so when you have memory loss or something and you're missing moments of your life, like I find that that's the ultimate tragedy. So immediately, so the show really starts playing up on that where people are like, oh, wait, you know, and then you're like, oh my gosh. Like, then I'm like, I'm in tears. I'm crying because it's like, I can't believe how touching this is.
Yeah.
It's a simple trope, but done well. It's done really, really well. So he does that. And then he does a show you can see on Amazon Prime called Marry My Husband. And that's like a saucy little show where it's basically, without giving too much away, a young girl, she's got cancer, she's dying. She gets out of the hospital. She goes to see her husband who's been busy. And then she realizes her husband's having an affair with her best friend. And in the process of an argument, she falls off the balcony and dies. She wakes up 10 years later, realizing what's happened. And in this weird sort of like Final Destination, like she realizes everything that she changes in history, like if she does this instead of this, well, it's going to happen. It's just going to happen at something else, or it's going to play out a little differently. So she's having to walk this very fine line as to how much she's allowed to change in history. You know, it's a case where once again, now this didn't have the budget of First Love or Glass Heart, but I can already see it was done in Korea. It was done in Japan. There's going to be an American version of this because it is just so saucy and dicey and soapy, but also intriguing because of the fact that they're having to dance around this whole, like, if she changes, you know, things too much, like, for example, if she doesn't bump into somebody and then knock them down, like someone else will do it. So this whole, especially in Japan, where everyone's so accountable for their actions, like it really, there's a, like I said, if you take Final Destination and make it extremely nuanced, it's a fascinating show. And then of course Glass Heart, which is the show about the band where, and I give it credit because I'm a sucker for racing movies or racing shows and for music. I have a lot of
Mm.
family members who, like, my dad's a musician, my brother's a musician, my sister's a musician. And so I find that any shows like about musicians where you feel like they're really playing the instruments, like where it looks good, like I'm in. I just that's to me that's a testament to great craftsmanship. I have to go to back movies like Almost Famous from 2000, Cameron Crowe's film, where I actually bought that this was a real band. And apparently, you can watch these clips on YouTube. If you look up Glass Heart, like behind the scenes, I think they spent over a year learning their instruments.
Wow.
Yeah, I think they're on tour. From what it looks like, they're actually touring. When I was in Tower Records in Tokyo, you could all their signatures were there. They were selling the album, I think, in true Monkees fashion. That was a show here in the 60s where they made up a band and then they started actually touring. It seems like that's what they're doing. And
Mm.
so, but it wasn't even just that they could learn to play their instruments. Like, for example, like I was telling my dad about it, and he's like, I'll check this out. And there was a scene where she's jazz drumming. And so it's like, okay, rock drumming is one thing, but when you're starting to improv jazz drumming, that's hard. And I'm sure it's edited in a certain way that kind of helps, but you can see like, no, that they have their chops. Like they're really doing it. And so kudos to that. And it's funny because I talked to my old boss, Tsunoda-san, and he would be like, yeah, Glass Heart was okay. It's more for the kids. It's definitely more of a young person show. And I also, too, because, Sato-san, he's always going to be in a romance. And the lead in Glass Heart, the girl who's in that, because, Mitsumisha is around, Sato's age, but the girl who's in Glass Heart's definitely younger. And the actress name is the young girl, and that is Miyazaki. Yu Miyazaki, and she kills it. She is literally the heart and soul of that. Her performance is so good. Part of what carries that show is how good she is. But she run to the litter, and she's just always like having to punch above her weight, and she sells it. She's really good at it. So if you like music, check that out. But yeah, the Sato romantic trilogy that I've seen, all are worth it. If First Love is really good, Glass Heart, and then Marry My Husband if you want to go deep cut. So for those of you looking for romance, you can check those out. Those are some fun.
Right.
Yeah.
Nice.
Hey, we haven't had a lot of comments. I'm really surprised. Where are you guys? Come on, you're supposed to stump our bands. I'll have another drink. Tell me what I should be drinking. Or Suntory Old Whiskey. Put it in the comments.
Yeah, but while we are waiting for the moments, what you were talking about just now reminded me of celebrity show here in
Yeah.
Japan, which has been running for quite a while, and it is called Geinojin Kakuzuke Check, which means basically translated it is celebrity quality rating check in English. So it's really interesting because until very recently, I was actually looking down upon these variety shows here, But
Right.
then this basically holiday season, I watched 2 episodes, and it was fascinating. For the first time, I don't know why, but for the first time, I found them interesting because what the show is about is that. They get 2 teams of celebrities or maybe 6 teams of celebrities, I don't, but basically anyway, so what they do is those celebrities who are very popular in Japan, and they participate in many different shows, TV shows, movies, and so on and so on. So basically they have to rate the quality of 2 different products, and one of them is very expensive, the other one is either cheap or very cheap or fake. And so the 2 shows which I watched just 2 weeks ago, or maybe 10 days ago even, were about wine. So 2 different wines. One of them is like $10,000 a bottle, and the other one is just, $50 a bottle or something like that. And it was fascinating because they had to guess which one. It was a blind tasting, and they had to guess which one was the expensive one and which one was the cheap one. So, and it was interesting because they had to guess A or B was the expensive one, and based on their answer, after the blind tasting, they had to go into different waiting rooms until the result was revealed to them. And of course, you could see people saying, after trying the two wines, and say, I'm confident that the answer is A, the expensive one is A. And the others would say, I'm confident that, the expensive one is B. And so you would get people, different number of people in the two waiting rooms. And most of the time it was just one person in in one room, and the other people, the rest of them, like 6 or 7 people, would go to the other room based on their answers. And there was one rock singer who is very popular, obviously, who
Yeah.
has won 80 times. He has won 80 times. He has guessed the right answer 80 times. His name is Gakto in Japanese. And he's always the final authority, the ultimate authority. He always knows what the right answer is. But the thing is that he has been built, his character in that show has been built like the ultimate authority on everything quality. And then the other celebrities, they have to live up to him, probably, while also competing among themselves about having the best tongue, for example,
Right.
or knowing what sophistication is, and so on and so on. So it's really fascinating to watch, and if you are in Japan, I would recommend you watch it. And if you understand a little bit of Japanese, that will be helpful too, of course, because it's in Japanese. But it shows you how the Japanese society works as well.
Right. That sounds like no. That sounds like fun. I mean, because first of all, as Frederick just commented, and he says, "I'm here, but I don't have the wide extent of viewing as you guys." So I'll just open up to this. Who's watching? What should I next drink be? Should it be a Yamazaki or Hibiki? Put in the comments. What should I have next, guys? You got a couple minutes to answer. Yamazaki or Hibiki? What should I pour next? And I'll describe you how it tastes. Not brought to you by Centauri. Anyway,
Right. Yeah.
in terms of game shows, it's funny because we get some interesting things here. A lot of times you can find stuff on YouTube, but like Amazon Prime got the rights at the update to Takeshi's Castle. And so for those who don't know, Takeshi's Castle is like the greatest and worst of Japanese television. Every crazy thing you can think about Japanese TV is in this show. It is sort of like the granddaddy of these shows. It came out in the 80s. I think it was like 86. I think it was literally like 30 something years ago. And it's like the ultimate Japanese game show, like 30 contestants, getting hosed down by samurai, running up hills, getting chased after. Like it's the adult Nickelodeon show you've always dreamed of. And so in the States, what was kind of sad was because in the 90s, they repackaged it as something like called MXC. And instead of just having like the real dialogue or the Japanese dialogue translated, they overdubbed it with these really jocular American guys, and it really ruins the show. I felt anyway in the 90s, like, oh, this would be so entertaining if you just mute it. Because this is a case where literally like how sometimes, America just doesn't quite know what to do with Japanese entertainment. But this is the 90s. It was 30 years ago. I'll forgive them now. But long story short, they've re-upped it. So you can watch the new season of Takeshi's Castle on Amazon Prime. Have a drink in your hand and just be ready to just laugh until you cry. It is ridiculous how crazy this show is. And it's just, and I'm not really into those type of shows. I'm definitely more of the Jim Jarmusch, Ozu, Koreeda type, but if you're going to do a show that extreme and that crazy, I am also a sucker for entertainment that takes things that far. I was always a big fan of like films like Scott Pilgrim versus the World or Everything Everywhere All at Once, where like this movie is so beyond over the top, I don't know what I'm watching anymore, but I'm in. I kind of feel like Takeshi's Castle is kind of like that. There is a Japanese film director called Sion Sono, who I know like you can watch Tokyo Tribe on I think it's on YouTube now for free. It's a little disturbing sometimes because he definitely takes things too far. But his early 10s films where he was doing Tokyo Tribe, which is basically like a 2-hour long Japanese rap video. And then Why Don't You Play in Hell? There's just such a looniness about it that when Japan does kind of cut loose, and maybe it's a 3 drinks into the salaryman having fun, and it gets that crazy, they do crazy better than we ever could. Where it's just that
Yes.
fully entertaining,
Hmm.
and so it's that's worth mentioning. But yeah.
Yeah. No, I like that because it reminds me also of another. Well, it was a TV series, and then I basically they created a movie which I love, and it is called Neko Samurai, or
Oh,
Cat Samurai. And I don't know whether you have heard of it. So basically, it came out when in 2013 and run from 2013 to 2015, and it was presented in the jidaigeki or
mhm.
historical drama genre. But it's really, well, it was on Fuji television at that time. And then later on in 2014, well, not that much later on anyway, they created a movie which was directed by Kazuki Kitamura. So and this is really, I mean, they do crazy much better than we do, but they also do quirky much better than we do, because
Right.
this film and this series basically is, let's say, it's based on a quirky premise. Like it is about a hardened, very hardened samurai that also, once again, in the Edo era. And so that samurai is looking for a job, right? And he's
Mm.
that very tough person, very tough guy, the samurai type and everything. And he's hired by a family, to another clan actually, to kill a white cat that is believed to be a malice, you know.
Oh gosh,
and
here we
then
go. Yeah.
and then right, so
Right.
and then he sees that cat, but eventually he cannot kill the cat, and he starts caring for the cat as his pet, and
Right.
carrying that pet around with him while he's doing his samurai thing. And it's such a, I mean, there are so many funny moments, and it's just a mashup, of, mashup is that? Mashup of action and comedy, and character
Right.
growth and
Right.
animal antics. And it's just a beautiful mix with a lot of things that you can laugh about, but you can also be sad about as well. Because at the end of the day, it's about human nature and how we approach different challenges in life, right?
Mhm.
And how we get attached to things, to animals even, without ever being much of an animal person.
Right.
So, yeah, and everything comes in an unexpected way, right? And that's why I believe I think it's a beautiful one. So I think it's a little bit old already, 11 years old, right? But you can still find it, on some streaming platforms. Just rent it there, watch it. It's really a beautiful story, and you can laugh there, and you can cry as well.
Well, I didn't hear from anybody, so I'm actually going to go for the Suntory Old Whiskey this time, which you can't find here in America.
Right.
So, yeah, well, come on, you guys had your chance. Is anyone out there? Frederick's watching us. Thank you, Frederick. I know Susan's watching us. So,
Yeah.
thank you guys for coming in. I guess, it's funny because, we might go a little over here, but this is the thing about these shows, right? When we talk about stuff we love, it's just easy. We could probably do this for 3 hours, but I have to go to bed and you have to go to work. So,
Yeah.
I figured I want to run through the list real quick, a couple things of like, if you have Netflix here in the States, some of the stuff you can look out for. There's a show called Giri Haji, which means duty shame. It's a BBC NHK crime drama. And if you're like my dad and you love your BBC crime dramas, Giri Haji is really good. It's got that BBC kind of sheen to it. And Hiro-san, who was in Rental Family and Crosspoint, and Shogun, he's in it. So definitely, it's worth checking that out. I've had fun with a show called Pray Speak What Has Happened, and it's set in the 80s. And it's basically about a guy who ends up in the seedy, naughty district of Tokyo. And yeah. Oh, and Frederick says, I'm watching and just realized that you're in Tokyo. Yes, I'm in Chicago. And by the way, in Chicago, any hour is an appropriate hour for drinking. There's a once said,
Yes.
like, you drink like you're in Chicago somewhere else. people don't like it.
Okay.
How many drinks have you had? Like here or before I got here? You know, our sports teams are
Well, that
terrible.
I
My
like
brother
that.
always tries to kill us. That's why we
Right.
have to have drinks, and that's why we're funny. That's why all the comedians come from Chicago. But thank you, Frederick. So pray speak what has happened. He ends up in a seedy district with a lot of like seedy characters, and he decides to put on a Shakespearean play. It's very entertaining. And another person who was also in the show I Love You, and she plays the dark character in Shogun, the woman who bears the child of the original, like the guy who was in charge. I don't know if he was a shogun officially or not. Gosh, don't get old, you guys. You get a block on the names, and then it's just really sad. Fumi Nakaido. Fumi Nakaido is in that as well, and she's just really, really good. One day we're gonna have to have an anime episode because we've always skated around this. But Dan to Dan comes out with season 2. It's good, but I don't understand why they had to change that theme song. That first theme song was such a banger. It was so good. Suzume, for all you anime fans, it is a fantastic film. It is the third, I think it's like not the third film, but kind of in this series, a third of his trilogy of Makoto Shinkai, who had done Your Name and Weathering with You. Suzume is a fantastic kind of, fantasy film about a girl who basically has to close magical doors in Japan before they cause a natural disaster. And I also, a couple more I'll mention. The Fable is a film. There's 2 films, The Fable, and there's a second sequel that's on Netflix where it's basically about a serial killer who has to go into hiding and can't kill anybody for a year. Serial killer. He's like a mob killer. He's something like that. He's an assassin. And it's very entertaining. So he's hiding out in Osaka. If you miss Osaka, like I do sometimes, it's a very fun and entertaining movie, The Fable and its sequel. And then finally, got to talk about Miss King. Non, who's an actor who's so good. I hope she finds footing here in the States because she's just one of those people who's just phenomenally talented. It's sort of like some people might call it a poor man's Queen's Gambit because it's about shogi. And it's basically a genius shogi player. At times contrived, but once again, the production values are fantastic and the performances are so good. You don't mind the plot holes because everybody's so good in it. And it's also, once again, I think shogi is sort of a, definitely judging from the show, is kind of a male dominated, I wouldn't call it a sport, but game. It's like chess, whatever. And she's cracking through it as a female character, very rebellious and just very, very good. So one last thing I will say, because my dad did recommend a show called, I think we talked about it a little bit, called, and this is, once again, all this is on Netflix, called House of Ninjas. The one thing I will say about House of Ninjas and the show First Love, the soundtrack is phenomenal. And I'm not sure if they're trying to cater to American audiences or they just have a person who knows what they're doing. But the soundtrack comes right out of a Wes Anderson film. You have like the marionettes. You have songs that like just solid. And I always said that sometimes I felt like sometimes Japanese films or TV shows, they cheap it out a little bit on the music. It could be better if they had a better soundtrack. And in particular, I've noticed I'm starting to see this trend now where they're spending the time to put in those really great indie songs. I think, because I know there's a song, oh gosh, I got to remember the name of the band, but it's so well done. And it's in First Love when they see each other again for the first time, and he doesn't know, she doesn't know, he knows. And I think it's the Marionettes. And it's just like, wow. Like, I think the song's called Cry for Love. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm in,
Yeah.
Having a great song that can do that. So, but anyway, I guess what else do we got? Do you got anything else before we get into our wrap up here?
I think that I can talk about this forever, but maybe we can continue the conversation on a different day because people do have to work in Japan.
I know, right? It's a Friday. What are you talking about? You don't got to work. I'll wrap up with so speaking of which, we're going to continue the fun in 2 weeks from now. I don't want to announce it yet, but it's going to be a really, really fun show. And we haven't completely dialed it in, but it's going to be really good, especially if you're a Harry Potter fan. So hopefully that'll happen. If not, we've got like the next 6 shows lined up. We got some Japanese Chicago comedians coming on the show. It's going to be a murderer's row of talent, and we're really excited to have 2026 be the year that we just take this to a whole nother level. We were so lucky because our guest list is already a murderer's row of like Japanese talent, and you just keep bringing in great people. And honestly, if it wasn't for you listening, and if it wasn't for the people on our show, we wouldn't be doing this. And it's wonderful. So one last thing I want to wrap real quick. I was in Japan. I was in Osaka and Tokyo in October. And needless to say, I'm gonna have a drink here when I say this. This hasn't been the easiest year for me. It's been really rough. I've suffered some pretty tough losses, and I got to meet Mei here. We've known each other, but I got to meet you, and I got to meet you with Waka Ikeda and Mayu Nakamura, who are also guests on the show. And I got to meet. I'm going to read off the list. Jiro Sakamoto, who was the former head of Ajinomoto, Aya Ito from NHK, and we had a delightful afternoon walking around the park, and she was showing me her favorite places in Tokyo. Nao Kando and Hiroyuki Ikeda, who I known for a bit. I'm trying to get them on the show because I think they'd be fantastic. But they're the guys whose careers are just so out there. That it'd be tough, but they really were very insightful, and they took time out of their busy schedules to meet with me. Kanako Fujita, who will be on our show again, hopefully next week. She's going to be one of our people. Dani Orialis and Stephanie Ariane, who are in Crosspoint. Asako Shimoy and Kenjiro Mori, who were in Osaka. Asako Shio. I'm having too much to drink. Asako Shiomi and Kenjiro Mori, representatives of Osaka, and just great people. Also in Osaka was Takumi Masuda and Satoshi Dono, who were at Mebik, who I was hooked up with through a gentleman named Atsushi Senkitani, who's a really, really great guy. And we got to see jazz together in Osaka. Fun fact, if you're in Osaka, go to a jazz club. We got to see Yoko Noge, she goes back and forth between Chicago and Osaka. And Yoko was funny. I got to see her in Osaka, and then 3 weeks later I saw her in Chicago, and I waved, and she just kind of did a double take. He's like, "Wait, you were just in Osaka." I was like, "So are you?" And then finally, Moika Ida and Roland Ida. She's fantastic, and Roland Keltz, who she introduced me to Roland. Thank you. That was who I met with in Japan. When I wrote down the list, I was like, my gosh, I talked to a lot of people. But I tell you, if it wasn't for you guys, I've had a very rough year, and you guys are keeping me alive. You guys are keeping me moving. I honestly don't know where I would be. And for those of you who in Japan, who I met, who were just kind and supportive and just spending time with me and just getting to know each other even better. Just thank you, from the bottom of my heart. You guys have kept me going. And so I hope to see you all again soon in Japan. And then for all of those who are the guests for our guest list, by the way, I would be remiss to say, if you want to see great Japanese entertainment, check out Saka Films at sakafilms.com. There's a wonderfully curated list of Japanese films there you want to check out. And Chiaki runs that, and she's fantastic. I want to get her on the show again. There's so many people. Douglas Montgomery, I want to get back on the show again. He's doing so many cool things. I think he'd be amazing to bring back. Thank you all from the bottom of my heart. Seriously, I owe you one. One last thing is, we see like this LinkedIn user saying excited for Harry Potter. Who is this? Who are you, LinkedIn user? I always see LinkedIn user. Jazz in Osaka.
I think this is Keegan Kawahara, I believe.
Who?
Keegan Kawahara.
Keegan.
Yes.
Fantastic. I love this guy. He saw I did this little mock trailer From Chicago to Osaka with the song Kiss Me by Sixpence None the Richer, but in Japanese. And he was like, dude, this has been on repeat. Man, I want to make this movie just for you. I think that would be fantastic. Although I might have to change the script a little bit. There's a whole thing with that, but just make some alterations. Got to do version 6, but
Yeah.
that's a story for another time.
Right. Great. Okay.
All right.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you all for listening. Tune in next week or text 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Right. Yes, in 2 weeks' time. Yes.
It worked.
Yeah. Thank you.
Take care now.
See you then.